Artem. Artem Pamphilo is a digital consulting lead director at Intellias. Intellias is a Ukraine company, right?
Yes. Ukraine.
Artem is a mature business executive leading comprehensive digital strategy and transformation initiatives at Intellias. Building on 22 years of experience in IT and deep industry experience, he has implemented the main CIS bank information exchange system, as well as a number of technology solutions for Swiss and US financial institutions. He just told me he came back from Boston. So bear with him. If he's sleeping, if he's falling apart, we'll hold him. Huh? So he's on jet lag. His knowledge and aptitude for delivering integrated value and cloud tech transformations has contributed to growing both top and bottom lines for the biggest players in finance, healthcare, and other professional services companies. A strong believer in technology as a catalyst for positive change for everyone, he's involved in non-profit initiatives, advancing STEM education. And by the way, he's also a non-professional pilot, so he has other interests as well. Question, Artem. With that background, you have probably seen numerous AI initiatives in financial institutions. I have, therefore, two questions for you. Two. Can you memorize them?
Yes, I'm good at this.
Okay,
yes.
First, what are the typical AI business cases you've seen in the financial technology space? First, so what have you seen? And second, that was the last question, why do AI initiatives have had such a difficult time to get implemented more?
Okay.
You have only 9 minutes. I have more.
9 minutes. Somewhere
Yes.
it should be the numbers for me to start, because this is a topic for years of discussion, right? So I will probably start with non-obvious. The non-obvious use case, probably there were some of the answers there about that. It is security. So I've been involved in many projects where AI ended up being part of the security governance or security systems, right? So this is not obvious implementation because sometimes UI considered, usually in financial institutions, and some kind of forecasting tool. But most of the time right now, users' behavior is analyzed, because right now, look, we have users. Those users are with the money, they have quite a lot of the money. So the first area of the services where we tend to be implementing AI is the security. We're trying to analyze user behavior. We're trying to analyze and predict what they will be doing and tell, is it the appropriate user behavior? Is it the market behavior and we are reacting? So we basically building a system to augment and enhance the security. So the things with that is quite interesting implementation, and we built it as multiple times. So it's quite exciting to have a security enhancement. You never think about that, you needed more security, but yeah. So another area which you mentioned is the performance. So every time you're thinking about the AI, and AI, just for the rest of the group right now, guys, I'm a tech guy, so AI for me is just another tool. AI for me, it's another way of coding. It's another way of thinking, another way of implementation of the same problem. So first thing when you end up thinking about the AI will be, how can I implement something and enhance? That will be performance of your team, performance of your employees, everything related to performance and argumenting the users, right? So this is the area where most of the services we're implementing landed. Like your personal examples, this is like an enhancement. You're basically building something interesting, and then some of the guys getting fired after that because you're doing that with less people. I think the last one, which is quite interesting, and you slightly touched this topic, is data. It's a service and product discovery. This is where I'm most fascinated. So it's kind of connected with the second part of the question you told, why it's failed, right? So data discovery, product and services discovery based on the data. So imagine you have a lot of the data. So you cannot imagine, like you are having a lot of the data if you are in financial. How you are developing your products. So starting from like even basic, probably you based on your experience, you based on someone tells you that, based on your legacy. So it's mostly human argumented decision, like what you have right now as a service offering. AI quite good in doing multiple other things which human are not capable to do, which is finding the data connection points. So why I mean by that is if you have a data lake, a lot of the data, and you are trying to look at this, understand what you have, you will end up with having a bunch of BI-based reports, which is saying, here's your data, here's how it looks like, here's how it behaves, and then et cetera, et cetera. But with the AI, what you can do, and I can easily show you this because I'm considering myself still as a black box opener. So with the AI, you can quickly understand what you're lacking and what kind of relations with the data you have. This is really based on the data discovery process and the product discovery process based on this. This is basically like opening a bunch of opportunities. And I'm excited about the third group. I'm not excited about the group which quite developed right now, forecasting and predicting. A lot of the models implemented. I implemented myself a lot. But data and product discovery, which fascinates me. And for those who are interested, you can ask me later. I can explain how we can achieve this. And the second part of the question was why it's failed. I have a simple explanation, which is there is a strategy called fail fast. What it means, we tend to, as all product owners, architects, I don't know, in the marketing, we tend to implement something new and fancy and build project just for the sake of this implementation. What I mean by this is like if you heard AIML, I've been in this situation multiple times, believe me. Sometimes you're building a project just for the sake of having AIML. It's not driven by the market. It's not usually driven, it's not always. It's not usually driven by the market. And it's not usually said like, market will tell you, you need to have an AI. No, it's usually something different. And then you ended up having a project which is in a title, even in the requirement said, we should have AI, but it shouldn't be formulated that way. And somewhere in the middle of the project, you're realizing that you can do that with BI tool. If you can do that with BI tool, do it with BI tool, never do it with the AI. You will fail somewhere in the middle, for sure, 100%. So AI should be considered every time you have a project, every time. You should consider AI as one of the tools. It's like selecting the language for your project, selecting, I don't know, is it cloud, non-cloud? It should be like, is it cloud, non-cloud? Is it the AI-based? You should ask that question to someone. So that goes to the second part is like, you should have someone to answer that question. All of the problems you saw earlier, it's like derived from this. You don't have a personnel who understands. You don't have usually kind of project build a pipeline of the project which validated against AI opportunities.
Which is why you asked why you cannot push all the buttons, right?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, why I cannot do that?
Maybe one last statement then, because we're running out of time, and I know this is something.
Just consider failing fast. If you don't have AI, or if you have a project and it's not going, fail fast. Go with the next. Consider having AI every time you have a project. That's my advice will be. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Artem. Great.
No problem. Thank you.
Javier. Javier comes all the way from Spain, and I asked him, why are you here? And he told me that Spain and we're not in Poland right now. We're in Czech Republic, but he used to be traveling a lot to Poland because Poland and Spain are in a similar kind of development of technology. Advanced in technology, smaller markets, pretty much same in size. And therefore, he used to go to Poland to benchmark. That's where he met Olena, and that's why he's here. So this just as a background. Javier Camero has extensive experience in the banking industry, in which he's worked for 25 years, both as an executive and consultant in the strategy and business domains in companies such as Banco Santander, Deutsche Bank, Grupo Caja Rural, where he is right now, and Accenture, where he was the head of commercial banking in the Iberia region, Spain, Portugal, and Israel. Okay? Javier is an engineer by the Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, Master in Information Technology by the University of Barcelona, and holds a Global Advanced Management program by ESADE. That's a great university, and Georgetown University. Currently, Javier is the Chief Digital Data and Analytics Officer at Rural Servicios Informáticos. I'm going to say RSI in the future, so easier, where he leads the data management activities as well as digital channel development. RSI is a banking IT company that provides banking technology to over 50 banks purely on a banking as a service business model. We've met RSI many, many years ago. Question, Javier. As a digital data and analytics officer at RSI, you're wearing a technology and also a business hat, you told me. Would you share with us in 9 minutes' time your views on applying AI at RSI from a business perspective? And if you can, also share some KPIs on what AI has delivered to you and your organization in day-to-day operations?
Okay, thank you, Federico, for the presentation, introduction. Well, in order to address your question, I must clarify that we are RSI, we provide services to 50 banks, but those 30 are our shareholders, and my answers are mainly referred to those clients or those owners of us, and that they act under a multi-channel relationship model, which has strong physical distribution dimension. This is important to understand the metrics, for instance. Okay, so how do we use AI in our daily activities? Well, we try to introduce them in to pull the 3 levers of banking profitability. More revenues, less cost, better risk management. So for more revenues, we try to say that AI for hyper-personalized opportunity management. So this means that we are pretty much in agreement with you, Professor, in Urbana-Champaign. How do we do that? We have predictive analytics initiatives, mainly to infer which customers are more likely to respond positively to a product offering, which is maybe the most obvious use case. But then we have prospective analytics also that tries to guide the relationship manager in the daily work. It's a help to him to organize his or her daily routines. Meaning that, for instance, a typical situation is a relationship manager who has above 100 relationships in his or her portfolio, and each relationship has a lot of opportunities alive. So this means maybe 1,000 opportunities to tackle. So, and the only instrument, the only tool that the relationship manager has is intuition. So we provide a guidance to him in order to guide what to do next. And this what to do next takes into consideration product propensity, buying propensity, has into consideration the net value of one unit sold, and has into consideration one hint of product centricity, because even though we want to see client-centric, product centricity still has a role in our daily operations. For instance, our relationship manager prefers to sell something that he's in a campaign because he's going to impact positively his performance valuation. So the model has into consideration all those things and provides guidance for the operations. I must say that in order to work, you must have a technology framework that provides marketing automation. You must have a CRM with a powerful 360 view of the client, banker's cockpit in order to be able to receive all those recommendations, etc. Okay. I will mention this for opportunity management and for higher revenues. The second thing I mentioned is better risk management. And I want to share with you an initiative here that I think is quite interesting. We have developed a graph that provides a view of all the companies under our visibility. Each node of the graph is a company, each link is how much they are mutually paying each other, meaning that we have a clear view of all the relationships between all the nodes of this fabric.
Nice.
And how do we use that? We use this for instance, forecasting what is the payment delinquency propagation wave, because this is like a wave. Once it starts in a node, you can say in advance how it's going to propagate. Okay, exactly. So this has allowed us to launch thousands of alerts.
Could you provide us with some, like, again, KPIs, like how much you have improved your marketing or your conversion rate or whatever?
I forgot to say previously that in our opportunity management efforts, we are getting roughly 20% lift in our performance.
Okay.
And this is a combination of two dimensions. One of them is a higher lift in success rate in our campaigns, so more or less between 4 and 8 times of success rate, depending on how targeted is the sample. And on the other hand, because it provides much more efficiency to the day-to-day operations of the relationship manager.
Okay.
So both dimensions combined, roughly 20% of success, of improvement of success.
Okay, maybe one final statement from your side, so that would close the whole thing?
Finally, a third domain is cost management, and in cost management I will mention just three initiatives. One of them is case management, AI for case management. When we receive a case, a ticket, we are capable of classify it and route it to the resolutor, to the agent that solved a similar case in the past with the resolution of the last ticket and the documentation in the wiki for answering the question. This has allowed us to improve 20%, between 20 and 25% the cases solved by any agent. And the last case that I will mention is a conversational assistant that we have in our digital assets that is currently having more than 6 million interactions every year with customers. Good. And if you convert this into money, the cost of solving 6 million interactions in a contact center, for instance, is huge. So the ROI of this initiative has been very, very impressive.
Okay, so your management is not questioning AI. Great, Javier. Last but not least, David. And I'm sorry that we're driving through this very quickly. It's because of the time, even though the topic is super exciting. David, apart from being a super excited amateur and expert in Formula One, you told us, David is the leader for financial services and insurance vertical at Data Centis, which is an Atos company. He brings a great deal of technical expertise as well as an experience from the client's perspective. In digital transformation, digital marketing, AI projects, leading marketing automation projects in banks, brokers, and B2B, customer data and customer behavior at omnichannel level, leading a team in the data-driven transformation of marketing in the biggest CEE retail bank. You will probably tell us who. He's a public speaker at conferences here, machine learning and how to utilize it in digital advertising campaigns. Now I have a question for you as well. Great respect, David, at that seemingly young age and such credentials. I would like to grill you with 3 questions to please answer in 9 minutes, so 3. First, and see if you can remember them. What are, in your view, the most trending AI use cases in FSI at the moment? So use cases. Second, how can AI use case be accelerated faster? So coming back to what Artem said. And third, how can we grow internal AI talent competence, which was one of the topics that we saw as problems. Here you go.
Thanks a lot. So I would start with the first question. So what are the most common use cases we see? So when we are working for our clients, we basically see three kinds of use cases. So first one was also mentioned by Javier, that it's around hyper-personalization. So it's a big topic in FSI these days, but you know, the personalization, it's been there for a while. But what we see is that now, with the emerge of cloud technologies and, let's say, cost of development of AI going down, the companies can focus on new kinds of data, like, for example, data from digital behavior. So how people are browsing your internet banking app, how fast they are filling in some online forms, and so on. So these, let's say, digital behavior data, they are vast, they are really big data sets, and there are basically no other way to process them than using some model approach or statistical approaches. So using this digital data, and also, let's say, using unstructured data coming from the customer service, you can imagine it as call recordings that are being automatically transcribed by speech-to-text AI algorithms that are developed by the big players like Google, Azure, or AWS. So using these algorithms, it's nowadays much cheaper to transcribe even voice recordings of the customers to a text, and then you can use some NLP models to understand the topic, the product, the feeling of the customer, and many other things that gives you a little bit of insight about the customer's need. So using the digital and unstructured data for hyper-personalization, it's a thing we see, and we've been working on this, for example, for Česká spořitelna, member of Erste Group. They are really doing a great job there, and the interesting thing is that we see that let's say the bet on cloud and technologies like Databricks is massively helping go fast. So hyper-personalization, once you plug this data, you can enrich all classical processes you have around customer, upselling, cross-selling models, retention models, and you can help prioritize the leads for the outbound and so on. So there are really, it's really not about disrupting the processes you have, but it's actually bringing new data, using AI techniques, plugging into the processes, and slightly reprioritizing and making the people more efficient. So that's the first use case. The second use case, I would say, we've seen around, let's say, enrichment of the core banking and insurance processes. What I mean by that is, for example, fraud. So fraud detection processes, they've been there forever, right? So it's, again, AI is not about to replace them. And if you have some internal project trying to replace it completely, well, be careful. But the way we see it working is that, again, we are bringing those new kinds of data about, for example, how fast the customers are, or how long the customers are spending on a last confirmation page on some online form. So you can imagine that this interesting information, how much time I spent on the confirmation page, it gives a interesting insight whether I'm, for example, a fraudster trying to fill the form. And it's not so easy like that, because, for example, young people, they are much faster, so they like to just skim through the process. So you need some AI to combine all the different factors about the customer, come up with the model that is able to extract the patterns, and then you can enrich the fraud detection process, and, for example, decrease some false positivity, which is the biggest thing. Yeah, because in fraud, you don't want to call your customers asking them if they are fraudsters, right? It kind of doesn't help the customer relationship, right? So that's the case we've been doing for eSure in UK. And it's a massive thing, especially in Western markets. And let's say the third use case we see is all about document reading AI. So let's say classical OCR methods, like let's say reading some physical documents, they are not working well because often in FSI we are dealing with many differently formatted documents. You can imagine, for example, insurance company dealing with the claims. You smash your car, you go to a repair shop, you get invoice, and then you send it to your insurer. But every single invoice is differently formatted, right, based on the repair shop. So classical OCR method doesn't work. But in last years, computer vision made massive progress. And nowadays, you can train neural networks using deep learning approach, and you can create algorithm that is able to find, for example, amount in a particular place in the document, or for example, the name of the repair shop, and things like that. So again, this is, let's say, third use case we are doing, for example, for an insurance company of KBC. So that's, let's say, the three main areas of the use cases, and now I'll quickly move to the remaining two questions, right? So how to, let's say, accelerate it? So as been discussed before, I've seen several customers trying to develop their own data AI platforms. But what happened after a couple of years, they realized that they are a FSI company trying to build a technology, which often is not a ideal way to do. In the last 5 years, cloud providers, hyperscalers like GCP, AWS, and Azure, they made massive progress. So you have all the technological stuff there, which is ramping up the productivity of your internal teams. So you can really rely on them and speed up the go-to-market, and you can be much more frequent in fail-fast approach. Yeah. So I would say if you are doing some AI project, really consider using hyperscaler, at least for some initial phases. So the last bit was about how to, let's say, retain the talent, right? So
retain and grow, yeah.
And retain the growth, yeah. So I've seen all of the FSNI companies trying to build their own data AI competence, building their own internal teams. But honestly, it's a tough job, yeah, because in these markets, these experts are quite demanded, and it's hard to hire people, and it's actually even more harder to retain them, because if you are FSNI, not everything goes as fast as the technical people would like, right? So you need to care about compliance and this kind of stuff. So let's say the young talents, they don't like it. And one way how we see our customers are trying to work around this is that they are cooperating with external specialized consultancies for these things, who can bring the, let's say, market view, who can bring the use cases from other, let's say, from other clients in the industry, and who can serve as this like continuous feed of the interesting things. And it's important that these consultancy companies are not competing. Yeah, for example, many Big Four projects are kind of set up in a way to compete with the internal people, which creates this tension, and you probably all know it, right? But the successful clients that we see, they are really working hand in hand with the external consultancy company, and I think this is the only way how to retain the talent, because you are bringing some external vendor who feeds them with the new things. They are still on top of things, yet you deliver and grow your internal data competence in the same time. So yeah.
As a vendor, we totally agree with the last point you've made.
Thank you.
100%.
Thank you, David. Respect again. You kept the time and you answered all the questions. You remembered them. Hey, great panel with great panelists that deserve a big applause, I think.